Hi, this is Doug Hollywood Gore, and this is a little snippet of my autobiography.
How you doing today?
I'm good.
All right, so first and foremost, who is Doug Gore?
Doug Gore is many things. There's the racer part of me. There is the mobile freight side, which is my business that I own. I'm also a proud father of 3 lovely kids and a lovely husband to my wife, Shanice. So, yeah, there's many parts to Doug Gore.
So tell me about your genesis. Where did you begin?
Born and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I love to tell people that I was born in Samshab Square here in Montego Bay, and a lot of people look and laugh, but it's actually true. There was a doctor's office, Dr. Brown, and he was on Orange Street, which is literally a stone's throw from from the square. So when I tell everybody, yeah, it's Samshab Square, it's literally right there. So I'm a true Montegonian, true Jamaican. My family on the Gore side was really Kingston based, which was a famous company called Gore Brothers. They came to do cigars and actually terrazzo tiles here in Jamaica many years ago. They actually arrived in the 1800s. They kind of famous for the first grocery store ever to be in Jamaica, the Jamaica Ice Factory. They were the ones that brought that here to Jamaica. So a lot of firsts when on the Gore side of it. On the McFarlane side of it, which was my mother's side, they were more from Montego Bay. They actually came to Jamaica in the 1700s, so even before the Gore side of it. So on the both sides of my family were what you call true Jamaicans. Yeah. My mother was Miss Jamaica 1965. There was a picture of her that I'm sure you guys can spot at a later date. So they again true Jamaicans in all sense. So very proud of that. My first 2 kids were born here in Jamaica, Tommy and Sabrina. And it's almost back in those days, oh, you have to send your kids and let them be born overseas. But again, I wanted to carry on the whole Jamaican heritage of them being born here. And so I enjoy that my 2 kids were born here in Montego Bay. And my first wife, we moved on, and I married Shanice, and now I have a lovely baby girl, Neela, and kind of started life all over again as a father. So yeah, it's a fantastic time looking at Neela now grow up. As a matter of fact, yesterday was her first birthday, so big steps. So that's a little snippet of how I got started in the whole thing. I enjoy working, I enjoy being a father, I enjoy racing in the whole sense that I've always tried and pushed that to enjoy life. That is a very big marquee. If you don't, what are you here living for? And everything that I do with gusto. There is no halfway for me. It's always fill the cup to the top. There is no halfway. And I always try to stress that with my family also, that even Tommy, when he's racing now, it's always go full bore or nothing at all. So that's how I've been brought up, and that's how I push for life.
All right, so now moving into the more automotive side. What's your first car?
So I have a couple firsts. I have a Volkswagen GTI, which you guys can take a picture of. It was the first car that I actually bought with my own money. It was something that a neighbor of ours saw me working really hard in Miami, and he came to my father and said that he was moving away, and he had this Volkswagen GTI, and he had mentioned it to me, and I did not have enough money to actually buy it. But he said that he would actually give me terms, and I was able to pay it off little. And it's funny how life comes back around, because later on in life, my race car, when I went down to Barbados, which is where he went, he actually bought my race car from me. So here it was, I bought my first road car from him, and then he turned around and bought a race car from me. So it's funny how life works in a very roundabout way, you know. So that was my first road car. My first race car also was very similar. Felix Headley, he had an Opel Corsa car from England. It was a little 1600 cc Opel, and same sort of scenario. The car was up for sale. I didn't have all the money at the time. I went to my father and said, "Hey, I want to buy this race car." And he said, "Race car?" I said, "You're crazy. You're going to go broke." And I said, "But I really want to go and race." I said, "Dad, I watched you race. I watched all my uncles racing. I really want to do the same thing." So he said, "All right, tell you what, I'm going to give you terms also." And I was able to now go and purchase the car, paying him back little. And I've had a lot of friends over the time seeing me in my racing career and help me to do the same, whether it be in sponsorship, whether it be giving me terms on certain things that I was able to get to where I am, especially in racing today.
So your father and uncle were into racing, but what exactly drew you to the sport, and what kept you coming back?
So while growing up, my father was one of those sports guys that excelled in almost everything that he did. He played golf for Jamaica. He played badminton for his school. He also raced cars at Burnham Field. I had a couple of uncles that were into racing, Colin Whittingham, David Carr. Those are some very famous names back in the day. And I used to look up to a Chris Issa of the world, and Peter Moody, and I was saying, boy, I would want to always be like them, and want to go and race. And it's funny because we used to sit down around the table, and all of my father's friends would be there, and they would all say, "Boy, Neil, when you used to race at Burnham Field, boy, you're excellent." They didn't really talk about his golfing days or his badminton days or that sort of thing. None of that was talked about. It was always about racing. And then, of course, watching my father at the racetrack when I was a little kid, and then also Daddy never ever drove very slow on the road either. So of course, that was also, you're sitting in the car and watching your dad do some amazing things. And finally getting my driver's license now, and I realized at a very early age that I was driving like an absolute madman on the road. And I realized that if I had nowhere to vent my frustration and actually go and race instead of racing at, say, a Dover, than instead of racing on the road, I was probably going to get myself into serious trouble very, very quickly.
So racing was a release.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. And I needed that release. Yeah.
And that's what kept you going back to the track.
Every time that I did it and go there and look sponsors, and people would now come back and help me. And I said, all right, this is getting a little easier as time went on. And after a while, I was now racing for Mitsubishi. And that was really, really nice. I was able to get cars and go up to the various different evolutions. And then I got an offer to come and race in Japan. And I raced in Japan for 5 different times.
Let's backtrack a little bit. Tell me about your first ever race event.
My first ever. Well, my first ever is actually 2 different scenarios I'm going to give you. One day I was in Miami, and I had a Toyota pickup, and I drove down to watch an autocross, and I'm sitting there in the parking lot with my friends, and 2 of my friends were actually taking part in the race that day, and they're all setting up, and I'm helping them set up cones and so on. And they came back and they're all signing up, and I'm just standing there beside them, and then somebody said, "Doug, why don't you enter your pickup?" I said, "My pickup?" He says, "Yeah, man, there's a class, like a road car class." So I said, "What's in the road car class?" He said, "Oh, I have some Camaros and Mustang." So I said, "I have a Toyota pickup." I said, "But Doug, we've seen you driving, and boy, if you're going to drive like how you drive on the road, I can drive on the track. So like how you drive on the road, boy." I think you have a good chance. So anyway, I said, yeah, what the hell? I went and entered the pickup. After my second run, I realized now that I was actually in top three. And I'm sitting there going, boy, yeah, I could actually win this thing. And I went off into, it was a, I think it was actually an airplane runway. And I went and got some bags of sand and I put in the back of the pickup to weigh down the back of the pickup. Because what was happening is that I would come around the corner and the wheels were spinning. And I was now literally drifting instead of actually trying to go fast around the corner. And I put the weight in the back of the pickup. And I went out there and actually won the class. So I remember the guy that was handing out the trophies that day. And he walks up and he says, you know, all you guys with your fancy Mustangs and your Camaros, and here it is, a fellow right here, Doug Gore, says that he brought his pickup and he entered and he actually won. So, you know, when I first got that pickup and all my friends are cheering me on and I'm looking around and going, boy, that was really cool. So that kind of got the fever started, and then I then moved to Jamaica. Of course, that fever was still there. Went ahead and, as I said, I bought my first Opel Corsa. And the first event that I took place was right here in Montego Bay in a place called Lagoons, which is a famous, very nice area to go and live in now, but at that time it was an autocross. And I remember entering there for my very first time and actually, I'm not sure if I won, but I did get a trophy that day. And I remember everybody cheering me on and all my family and friends came out and watched and I had a fantastic time. So I think that the bug had bitten properly at that point. And it's all over after that.
So you guys, you got a nice pump of adrenaline.
Yes.
First race event, you won it.
Right.
Second one, you got a trophy.
That's right.
That's a pretty high note to start on. So moving through your career, were there any roadblocks that you hit along the way that you had to get over?
So I think roadblocks would be more accidents or, you know, you blow up an engine or so on. I mean, as far as my racing career having roadblocks, I don't think there were many. It was more like, OMG, Doug, you crashed your car. Okay, so I've written off a couple of cars in my time. Somebody was laughing and asked me how much times have I crashed, and I think I stopped at 11.
Alright, so quite a few.
But I'm actually still here to tell the tale. And some of them have actually been violent. I've actually gone to the hospital about 3 times. So yeah, and you know, them checking me out. I actually have the last bone in my spine is not there. That one got chipped off on a big accident at Jamwest with David Somerville way back in the day. So that one was an impressive one.
So how did that happen?
The start of the race, it was the last race for the day. Adrenaline is pumping from everybody. And Kyle, Greg, David and myself, and the cars touched. David and I careened off into the wall. My car was totally obliterated. It was left in pieces. At that point, I realized now that I couldn't feel my hands. And I said, boy, something is wrong. And I actually thought that I had broken my hand because of the violent hit that I got in the car. So I'm holding the hand, but I also felt like this tingling sensation. When the guys came up and asked me if I'm all right, and I'm saying, boy, something is wrong. I can't feel my fingers and I can't feel my toes. So at that point, they put me in the ambulance. I went down. After checking out, they were seeing that I was having some very low oxygen levels. But then that is also another issue which we can talk about. But I've broken my nose 4 times, so that's a whole lot of stratosphere there of stuff there. So after telling them that, then they understood that part, that I have to breathe a lot through my mouth, because there's a lot of dead cartilage up there in my nose bridge. And then after taking the x-rays, I noticed that I had fractured the last bit of my spine. But otherwise right now, unless like I do a whole heap of sit-ups when I'm going exercising or anything like that, is the only time I really feel it. Otherwise, I'm fine.
So it doesn't impair you?
No.
All right. Yes, that's good. As I say, after your initial start, you moved on to Mitsubishi. Tell me about that.
So while in Mitsubishi, I was then offered to come and race in Japan. Did that for about different times, running rallies and sprints and so on their dime. And that was quite cool. You kind of feel like a paid driver back then, which in all intents and purposes probably is. And after that stint with Mitsubishi, I finally was coming out now, and I remember my last race in my Evolution 5. I was beating David Somerville at Dover, and then the car broke. And I was so dejected. There was actually a very famous picture. You actually see me sitting out there looking at David Somerville passing in from behind me, and you see my car broken down, and you see me sitting there, and I'm now pondering, well, is this the finish of my racing career? Because I was so frustrated at the time that the car just kept breaking. And I said, well, I'm going to pack this up until I can find a proper race car. And then, funny enough, Adam Stewart came over my house one day, and we were just there talking. And he says, so what's going on with the Evos? And he says, I might have a proposition for you. Come down to my office and have something I want to talk to you about. When I went down to the office, Adam says, listen, I'm going to be the dealer for Audi in Jamaica. And Audi is not really a big known brand, and I want it to be on everybody's lips. I want everybody to talk about Audi. And what better way that I think that we can do it?
Race on Sunday and so on Monday?
That's right, absolutely. And I think the rest is history, because I think everybody knows about the DTM car that came all the way from Germany. And what a splash that made. I think it's still the absolute biggest crowd that ever came to Dover, was the debut of that car. And I think that after they sold over 20,000 tickets, that they ran out of bands. So we don't even know how many people were there that day. It was massive.
So full-blown race car, air jacks, sequential, all the works.
Proper. The real deal.
So that was 2010, 11?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I think so.
So
Or
how
11.
did that feel for you? Because in 2013, your record is saying you began motorsport with a two-door Opel Corsa, and today I'm driving an Audi.
Right.
So that must have been like a wave of like, wow.
Yeah. So a lot of it again is progression, and it's never wanting to just, okay, I'm fine with where I am. You're always trying to succeed. Where's the next best? And I even think even today, I'm looking at Tommy. We're having a lot of talks with different teams as to where Tommy is going to go next year. So again, it's not just, okay, let's just sit and race at Dover in a Honda Civic for him. It's where do we go from here? So for me, it has always been the next step up. Even within my business, even within my life, it's always, all right, what can I do next? What can propel me to be a better person?
Always try to go further.
Yeah, very important.
So how did you like the TT?
The
TT? Did you enjoy the car?
It's funny because my first time in the car, when it first arrived, the car kept spinning, and I couldn't understand the steering angle on the car. It was one of those quick rack steering, and all I had to do was just barely touch the steering wheel, and it made the turn. So it was one of those things where a full turn or a full lock, it's just small different steering angles while you're driving this car. It was almost like you're driving an airplane. The steering wheel actually looked like something in an airplane. And it took me a little while to get used to it. But when I did, and I finally mastered it, was quite something, because for 6 years we just kept winning and over and over and over. I actually have a period of 3.5 years that this car never ever lost a race. So, yeah.
Dominating.
Yeah.
So, Going over your career, you've mentioned that you have over 600 trophies. Can you look back and
Probably
recall some of
seven
your
now.
favorites?
My favorites?
Yeah.
I was actually asked that the other day, and I think that the Sportsman Trophy of the Year, I have two of them. Those are pretty cool because when you think that the people voted to have you be the Sportsman of the Year, that's quite big. I have some championship trophies that are quite massive also, that I thoroughly enjoyed gaining and getting. Being the Caribbean champion twice, the rally champion 3 times. Those are always good. So, but I was always a person that the championships didn't really mean as much to me. They came along, but they didn't really mean as much to me as the next race, to go out there and win the next race. That was the most important part to me. It was, all right, we won this one, what are we doing next? I was very fortunate, like even with the Mitsubishi, that we used that particular car to run almost everything. We ran dexterities, we ran sprints, we ran Dover, we ran rallies. This was a car that after every single time we finished a race, we said, okay, what's next? And it's a race at Dover. And we now tear down the car to nothing and get the car prepared for Dover. After winning Dover, now we said, okay, what's next? And it will be a sprint. And I think that we actually have the record where that particular car running so many genres of the sport. I think that there was one time where we ran, I think it was 8 or 9 events back to back, and we didn't lose. We won every one. So that was a testament to the team, of course, preparing this car to be able to go to a next type of race, not even say the same race, but a next type of race. So
So you made it a true jack of all trades.
yeah, and that's also a big thing in the motorsports field, is that how many people in Jamaica can say that they ruled rallying or ruled the dirt or ruled tarmac, you don't find that very often. So I'm kind of bragging on myself a little.
So you've dabbled in several types of racing. Which one do you enjoy the most?
So that's interesting because back in my heyday, I would definitely have said rallying. That car sideways at 100 miles an hour, the thrill that gave you was like, wow.
Adrenaline rush.
Yeah, man, that was like incredible. Going around and you're sliding on dirt. And when you talk about rally drivers and rally racers, I would definitely have them as the top of the motorsports world, as far as being able to control a car at that kind of speed on the dirt is quite phenomenal. And so I would say that rallying was definitely my first love. What happened with circuit racing now is that you were able to now go and get sponsorship easy through circuit racing, because you can now go and say to somebody, hey, you can come to Dover, you can see 6,000 people up on the hill eating them curry goat and them fried chicken and watching your car drive around all day long. So it's like a driving billboard. So it was easy to get sponsorship. It was easier to go out there now and be able to take care of sponsorship. And rallying was very, very hard. Back in the old days, rallying was key and it was very big. But as far as making money out of it, yeah, the circuit racing was definitely the way to go.
Alright, so in a way, I know it shares kind of the same nature of a question I asked you before. What's one moment or memory in your career you don't think you'll ever forget?
One moment I'll never forget.
Yeah.
I have a few crashes that I'll never forget. I think winning my first big end-of-year rally, and I remember crossing through that finish line, and this was the one that you always esteemed to win. You always saw the Jeffrey Pantons and the Chris Sisters and the Peter Moody's, they would always win this big SO end-of-year rally. And I think that one was really, really exciting. Pulling up and you realize that you had won that big one. And I think that was huge. I think going out to Dover watching the likes of a Bull Thompson in his rotary RX-7 and going out there and beating him for the first time, coming through the finish line, and everybody is cheering and everybody is going ballistic because a guy brought a rally evolution to Dover Raceway and actually won and beat the fastest car that was there, you know. I think those two really, really stood out as being like a wow factor with me.
Okay, so in career, so you've driven 4 Evos. Would you consider yourself an Evo guy?
It was something that I absolutely loved, for sure. It was driving on. I mean, I've owned 11 Evolutions, so it's a lot, yeah. And various different models, and you know, from the Evolution 1 straight to the 10. And I would definitely say that I kind of love them all, especially seeing their progression and seeing Mitsubishi take the next evolution and being also a part of that. So yeah, I think that Mitsubishi was something, and I couldn't believe that they actually stopped at 10. I thought they were going to continue on and on and on forever.
Back in the day, you said you'd drive the Evo 12, but that didn't happen.
Never happened, yeah. Every once in a while I still search the internet just to see if there's one that's going to come out.
So that big breakdown back in the day didn't do you for the Evo. You still
Well,
loved
I
it.
still had the road cars going on, but after that, no, I became an Audi guy. Even my road cars, all my road cars now became Audis, even till today. You know, I have a RS7, which I absolutely love, and that's, you know, so you're looking at the going from an A5, and then you're creeping up now, and then driving probably one of the ultimate four-door sedans in the world. Yeah, so I'm definitely an Audi guy now. I'm kind of stuck with that now.
So you worked your way up to your first 4 rings, and then your 4-liter.
Yes. And now the big V8 twin turbo.
How much is power is that making now?
I think now it's probably closer to 800.
8.
Yeah, it's way up
So
there.
stock is 591.
Was it? Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
So an extra 200.
Yeah.
Is that tuned by Abt?
Yes, that's right.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So I bought it in England. I called the app and asked them if they would do it for me. And because I was actually a dealer from them from way back in the Audi days, I said yes. So I got the car and sent it over to them before it came to Jamaica. So that car is definitely an absolute awesome car. When you think that you can actually go on the highway at literally 200 miles per hour, and you could actually sit and talk to everybody in the car, and not everybody's not going screaming like a.
I'd assume the car isn't screaming either.
Huh?
I would assume the car isn't screaming either.
Yeah.
Can probably do that and not break 4,000 RPM.
That's it, right? Yeah.
And so you've been around for a while. How long do you think you want to stay in sport for?
That is something that I've been asked about a lot, and I think that I will actually know the time when I want to hang it up. I think that if I go to a race and believe that I cannot win anymore, yeah, then I will definitely stop. I do believe that there is not a time where I can't get into a race car and not do well. I still think that I can go out there and win. There's the Clash of the Titans going on in a week's time, or 2 weeks' time. I'm actually going down to Guyana, and we have all the top cars from all over the region are going to descend in Guyana and race on the 5th of November. So keep watching out for that one. That one is going to be real interesting because I'm going out there to bring back the trophy for the Caribbean Championship again. That's my goal, and I'm pushing hard to succeed.
So when the time comes, you'll know. So when the time comes, you'll know.
Is what?
So when the time comes, you'll know.
Yeah, when the time comes, I'll know for sure.
All right, so now your son Tommy. Tell me about the process of how he developed a liking for racing and got into it.
So at 5 years old, for his birthday, I took him to Peter Moody and I said, let us see if you like go-karting. Put him in the go-kart and it was quite an eye-opener. I saw the big smiles on his face, even driving home in the car, and the smile just wouldn't stop. And at that point now I realized that, Tommy looks like the bug is going to bite, and it's been a massive progression since. We kept him in karting as long as we possibly could. He was then the youngest person to ever race at Dover in a road car at the age of 14. So this is way before driver's license and all those things. He was actually driving street cars. So, and then, as you can see now, he's been driving Formula 4 and radicals in the UK and in Eastern Europe. So the progression has been quite rapid, and looking for bigger and better things to come next year. We've been having talks with many different teams. As a matter of fact, I just got off the phone this morning. You're going to be the first one to hear this, but it looks like he's going to go and test in a DTM car next week.
So like father, like son.
Yeah.
So tell me about your relationship with him and racing. How about your relationship with him and like the dynamics of him racing?
Yeah, I think the father-son bond that I have with Tommy is quite great. We always talk about it. I mean, even on a father-son sort of scenario, I think that there is probably not a day where Tommy and I are not communicating with each other, either making phone calls or WhatsApping and just chatting about everything. And I think we'd have a special bond where it comes to that. So, and that a lot of it ties through the whole racing part. I tell a lot of people that if, of course, not even say racing, but if your son can get in or your daughter can get into some sort of sport, it is huge because it will kind of keep them out of trouble. They'll want to excel in whatever sport they're doing, and they'll not want to go out there and go and do the foolishness that we have and we see so many times out on the road. Here it is that Tommy might go to a party, but he's not going to go there and get himself drunk because he knows that there's ulterior motives that are going to happen if those things do happen. And I've always told him from he was a little kid, I said, Tommy, you do great in school, Daddy will fund your racing career. I've always told him that. Tommy's actually been an honor student for as long as I can remember. So he's actually right there at FIU now, and he has a 4.0 GPA. So he's making sure he holds up his end of the bargain.
So you must be a proud father going to Dover and Jamwis and racing alongside your son.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And even watching my other daughter, my oldest daughter, she has a bakery. She does baking and catering, and you're always proud to see what they have done. And who knows where Mila is going to go next. She's the next one coming up the block. So of course we're always going to push her to be the best that she can be.
Alright, so rounding out now. Tell me about what's your favorite car you've ever driven?
I would definitely say the RS7 that I have now. As far as a road car, for sure.
Right.
As far as a race car, the Audi DTM. When you first sat in something like that and you saw all the controls and you're driving the sequential and the brakes that were as big as a wheel, and you're sitting back and going, wow. And I think even with the road car that I have now is something very similar. It's you're sitting in this car and you're realizing that this is quite something.
Because even the R7 is somewhat similar in the brake sense, because the R7 I think runs on 21s and the brake discs are 17s.
That's right.
So
they're massive.
Yeah.
You've done your research.
Yeah, I have. Because I was planning to do a review today, so I was like,
Right.
had a whole thing set up, Yeah. So I think we're gonna close out now.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then we'll meet again very soon. And
Yes.
Yeah.
So once that issue gets sorted out, we'll definitely, and maybe once the Kia's back from Guyana, we'll do something.
Yes. Awesome.
All right.